Firstly, Mike, I want to thank all of your listeners. I'm guessing that they are predominantly evangelical Christians
Correct.
like yourself, and their friendship with the Jewish people, their stalwart support for Israel is so appreciated in our community and by the state of Israel and by people of conscience. The rise of anti-Semitism in our time is something I never would have predicted, not on this scale, not 70 years after the Holocaust. We really thought that the Holocaust was of such a terrible magnitude that the world would almost scare itself with how much it despised the Jews. It's one thing to harbor bigotry and prejudices. It's quite another to engage in genocide, in mass murder on that scale. So we thought that anti-Semitism would be in abeyance, that people would understand how serious it is. So this is all a terrible shock that we now see Jeremy Corbyn on the verge of becoming the Prime Minister of Britain, where I lived for 11 years, who's an out-and-out Jew hater, who says that he admires Hamas and Hezbollah, bloodthirsty terrorists. Ilhan Omar. We never thought that in the halls of Congress we'd have people roaming who actually are a mouthpiece for things like the protocols of the Elders of Zion, accusations that the Jews buy up, control the world with their money, buy off politicians with their Benjamins, their cash. We didn't think we'd have Rashida Tlaib, who would be accusing Jews of dual loyalty. These are the halls of Congress. This is not the fringe. This is not the margins. This is the highest halls of power. And it's quite shocking. And what it all leads to, this culture of demonization of the Jewish people, defamation of the Jewish people, let alone white nationalists, supremacists, who are just vile, despicable human beings. They violate every principle of the Bible in their hatred of groups that are not like them. Many of them claim to be Christians, but of course they're fraudulent Christians. They're not religious in the slightest. What this all leads to is attacks on Jews. It leads to dead Jews. When you demonize a subgroup, you demonize a minority, especially with the oldest hatred in the world, anti-Semitism, it leads to real attacks. And the attack this past Saturday, the last day of Passover, was an abomination. What happened in Pittsburgh was an even worse abomination. And it's quite frightening, Mike, because you know that I lived in England for 11 years in Western Europe, where the synagogues are like fortresses. You have police outside. You have metal detectors to get inside. America was never like that, but we're nearly there.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And Shmuley, in my book, Our Hands Are Stained with Blood, I chart the history of anti-Semitism among professing Christians and how deplorable and hateful that is. But in 47 years, for me as a follower of Jesus, I've run into great love for the Jewish people around the world, great respect for Israel, solidarity with Israel. I've run into it in Asia and Africa. I've run into it all over America, other countries. And what I'm seeing now is stuff I've never seen before. And some of it's coming from professing Christians like this guy, this 19-year-old. You read his manifesto, he's eloquent, articulate for a 19-year-old, but it's every standard anti-Semitic trope, including the blood libel. And then he's quoting the Bible and he's speaking about being a Christian. I've been raising my voice about these very things in recent weeks because I've been running into it. So like you, it's a shocker to see this. What happened with the New York Times now? Because this ups things to yet another level.
Yeah, the New York Times cartoon, which appeared Thursday in its international edition, was shocking. It was really straight out of the pages of Der Stürmer from 1930s Germany. Every disgusting, vile anti-Semitic trope seems to have been included, with the sole exception of, say, a bar of gold. You have the Prime Minister of Israel depicted as a dog. I mean, literally, the most famous Jew in the world, a man who was just elected to his fifth term as prime minister in the only democracy in the Middle East, is depicted as a canine. He has exaggerated Jewish facial features, the big giant nose, the dark eyes, the menacing eyebrows, and he has a dog collar with the Star of David. And we all know, almost like a yellow armband that you might have seen, God forbid, in Germany. He has a dog. He's wearing this dog collar, which is the Star of David. Then on top of that, you have Trump, the hated Trump, now Jewified, now made into a Jew, wearing a yarmulke.
Yep.
And he's blind, and he's being duped and manipulated by the wildly controlling Jew to do the Jews' bidding. I mean, this is the most dangerous anti-Semitic canard. The Jews are out for world domination. They're parasites. They only ever seek to control and manipulate the powerful people for their own advantage. They are always guilty of dual loyalties. They can never be loyal to anything but each other, and they're involved in a worldwide conspiracy. And when this disgusting cartoon first appeared, the Times, first they didn't apologize at all. They said that they're going to take it down because it was an error of judgment. Then, faced with worldwide condemnation, they did decide to finally apologize. But in typical Times fashion, instead of taking real responsibility, they said that the decision to publish the cartoon was taken by one editor without sufficient oversight, and they would now look into how it happened. Now think about that. This is the most famous newspaper in the world, and what's their defense? We're incompetent. So no real apology, no real, and the fact is, it's not true. It doesn't make a difference if it was the decision of a single editor. This cartoon got into the New York Times because of years and years of demonization of Israel,
Exactly.
years and years of demonization of Netanyahu. It's part of their editorial line.
And look, there's the Bret Stephens editorial where he says this goes back to the days of the Holocaust when the New York Times didn't publish things accurately to give a full picture of this. I mean, who knows how far things go back, but it is shocking. It does reflect the sentiments that are out there. There was an editorial the other day that referenced Jesus being a Palestinian. I wrote an article rebutting it. Others wrote an article rebutting it. And then they put out last day or two, just quietly, a correction. Oh, due to an editing error, Jesus was referred to here. Because of an editing error, an earlier version of this article referred incorrectly to Jesus' background. While he lived in an area that later came to be known as Palestine, Jesus was a Jew who was born in Bethlehem. Initially, they had him as a Palestinian. So, I mean, the standard Palestinian Authority, he was the first martyr, he was a Shaheed, he was a Palestinian. The New York Times buying into that. So Shmuley, we've got 3 minutes before the break. What can we do to make a difference and to push back against this horrific stuff that's going on?
Well, Mike, as I said, evangelical Christians are doing so much already. They stand up for Israel. They support Israel. They agitate for Israel. President Trump, I believe, is even on record as saying that one of the main reasons he moved the embassy, aside from his own conscience, of course, and his love of Israel and the Jewish people, is because he knows that his supporters, who are mostly evangelical Christians, they wanted to see that move. They wanted to see Jerusalem recognized as the eternal capital of the Jewish people. But what more can be done is the Times needs to be lambasted. People should be writing letters. I don't know if your listeners know, we fund giant ads in the New York Times on issues like this. We're going to be taking out an ad. People can go to my Facebook page, Rabbi Shmuley, or Twitter, write to me through Twitter, Rabbi Shmuley. We're raising money to take out an ad in the New York Times calling for a boycott of advertising in the New York Times and a cancellation of subscriptions to the New York Times until they engage in serious reflection shown to us with tangible results and how they editorialize about Israel and how they report about Israel. I mean, this is a wake-up call. We can't let them get away with it. And we should not be supporting an institution. I know it sounds a little bit contradictory. You take out an ad calling for a boycott of an ad, but we do a lot of advertising in the New York Times. Mike, this isn't about one cartoon. It's about the editorial line. So if people want to support that ad, if people want to help us, raise our voice, they can also write to me at info@shmuley.com, info at shmuley.com. We can give them more ideas. But in the meantime, keep the pressure up on the New York Times.
All right, awesome, friends. Rabbi Shmuley, that's Shmuley. Let's stand with him. Let's raise our voices. Let's push back. Good is going to overcome evil. We'll do it together. Hey, Shmuley, can't wait to see you soon and your family. That's the highlight. The debate's fun, but the highlight's hanging out. Can't wait to see you.
Yeah, God bless you, Mike.
God bless.
God bless
Thanks.
your family.
All right, thank you, sir.